Hello and welcome to a new episode of ZomCast, the special technology episode for the latest in technology, especially software and other things in technology that you might love. Alright, today, first let me introduce myself. I'm Mehdi, the host of this podcast, and I'm here with my co host Mahmoud.
Hey guys, I'm Mahmoud. I'm co-host of ZomCast.
Very good. Today we will be talking about several news, and after that we will have a special discussion about our last week's discussion about programming and how to teach programming to kids, how to learn programming as a beginner. But first, let me tell you some of the latest technology updates and news. Microsoft launches Open Service Mesh. Again, one good piece of news for cloud developers and cloud lovers. Uh, as far as I know, Open Service Mesh is a new open source project that is developed completely by Microsoft and this platform is supposed to run on Kubernetes. I'm not quite sure in what state the software is currently. Maybe it is ready for production, maybe it is used in some alpha version or beta version, but it's very good news for cloud developers and cloud native developers. The next thing we will be talking about, the next piece of news, is that China bans Scratch, the IBM's programming language for children. As as I knew and I read from the news, this might not be very new news, but it's somehow recent. But uh, the Scratch programming language had about 3 million users in China, and probably they banned it to create something Chinese, some equivalent Chinese program instead of it. And the next thing is that TikTok, the Chinese content sharing platform, was banned in the US. So uh, the previous one was that Scratch was banned in China, which was a US product. It was banned in China, and on the other hand, US banned TikTok in the US. And another thing, the next piece of news, again for open source lovers, those people who love open source video editors and video editors in general. There was a piece of software that I learned about last year. It was Olive Editor, and a lot of people loved it, even when it was still in alpha. And it was saying that when you went to its GitHub page, it was saying it is under active development, and then time went on and on and on, and after almost a year, no version came out, and it is still in alpha. And it turned out that the maintainer uh, posted something on patreon.com, and apologized for the delay and said some of the reasons that had caused the delay, including the fact that they decided to rewrite the program from scratch. They rewrote the program completely. All right, and that was for the items that we would discuss as news of this week. I have another item for you that I will tell you later. It's about Telegram and Telegram groups and channels. All right, today's discussion about programming. This week we will discuss mostly programming from the algorithms and math perspective, and how it is important to think algorithmically, and how to teach algorithms to children. Personally, I think that It's important to love math and algorithms in order to be a successful programmer. Because if you don't love algorithms, you cannot effectively solve problems. Do you agree with me, Mahmoud?
Yes, sure. The algorithm is base of programming. Yeah.
Yeah. And is math also important in your opinion?
I think both math and algorithm is something in our mind to find a solution for a issue.
Right.
Yeah, it's
That's right. I agree with you on that. In fact, it's the math and it's the math that is the language of the world, they say, right? When math is the language of the world, and we as developers and software developers, programmers, we are supposed to solve the problems of this world. So we have to know the language of this world. Of course, we don't have to be mathematicians, but you know, it's good to have a clue of the basic, at least basic high school math to be a successful and effective programmer. All right, we have a question here. How to teach programming to kids in terms of algorithms? How to teach them algorithms? Is algorithm a good subject for kids to learn in the first place? And how we can teach them to be an effective algorithm thinker? My opinion personally is that mm, they need children need to challenge problems, but we don't have to overload them with a lot of problems and a lot of math problems and try to force them to solve it. We need to challenge their minds in a way that they enjoy it. For example, with some puzzles or uh, with programs that challenge their mind and are specially designed to help them tackle mathematical and computer science problems, like series, mathematical series, puzzles, etc. And this way, I think we might probably be able to make them interested in algorithms and let's say step-by-step solution, finding step-by-step solution to problems that might look formidable at first, at the first sight, but when once you go into it and once you find the ways and steps that can help them go forward and tackle the whole problem step by step gradually, I think it might have a better result and better effect on their self-confidence and also their future success. What do you think, Mahmoud, about how to teach them, how to teach
mm,
kids
I think
algorithms and algorithm thinking?
yeah, I think it's a good idea to teach children programming and algorithm because it helps them to create a better future for us, for the world, and it helped them to uh, solve their problem, their life problem, their problem in their life, and it's very good idea. And for teaching, I think they love to playing, and we should use that. We should use it. We should create an environment to just like playing, not a, uh problem or mathematic or something that. If I think we can use simple language as you told. Scratch is
Yeah, yeah, Scratch. It's designed for kids. Yeah.
yeah, it's designed for kids, and it's very good idea to create a new language for kids, and Scratch is very good idea. And I believe that the project is very important to have passion to do it, and we should choose a funny project or some games, simple games, I think. Yeah, and I think it's very good idea.
Nice, nice. So, as far as I know, a lot of kids hate mathematics and they don't love mathematics in schools, and probably in part that's due to the fact that math is taught in very classic way in schools. They don't use new technologies to teach math, and math is always something that you have to learn. It's something like a bitter drug that you have to consume but you might not love. Personally, I was not very much fan of math when I was in school, but I think there are ways to make children interested, including the fact that a lot of kids want reason for why they should do something the way it is done. For example, they told us to add numbers in a special way. For example, from the right we started adding them, and down and far to the left we ended up adding them. But they never told us why we should add them in such way, or the way we were taught to divide numbers. Or they said that if you, for example, divide uh, something by zero, it becomes infinity, right? Yeah, it becomes infinity. Why it becomes infinity? Because it's a question a teenager might ask you, and you don't know. Uh, they might wonder why. How on earth can we divide something by zero? And why it becomes infinity? What is infinity? These are some fundamental questions, and nobody answers them. They just teach us rules, mathematical rules. But I think human mind needs some understanding, and discovery of why things are the way they are before they are told the rules. Rules are good, but some understanding and some philosophy behind it makes it sweeter, in my opinion. So, if you become successful, if a country becomes, or educational system in general becomes successful in teaching effective math to children, I guess they will be successful in creating good computer scientists as well. Because not everybody is math genius. And in order to love math, they need to have some understanding and some enjoyment of the math, not just trying hard to pass the exam and take the exam with a good score. But they need some understanding, and in order to enjoy mathematical concepts and mathematical, for that matter, other branches of mathematics like geometry and what was the other, algebra and other stuff. All right. So, the bottom line is, in order to create and to grow problem solver children, we need to help them think better, in my opinion. We need to help them think better and enjoy solving problems.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there something you want to add to this, Mahmoud?
No, I'm agree with you, and I think math is good things and help children in their life to uh, become more stronger in their mind. I think math is very good for mind, for brain, and if you, it's like a training and workout. Uh, if you imagine a muscle, it's if you training and working out, your muscle become more powerful. And I think it's mind is like a muscle, and mathematic or algorithm or some logical uh, formats help mind to become more powerful, and it's help us to improve our brain power, I think, especially in children. But I'm agree with you. I think in our school they don't teach us mathematics in a good way. I'm sure that we should change it in our school, because uh, yeah, we should do it in a better way. It's not very attractive for children. Yeah, and about your question, yeah, I think programming and algorithm and mathematics can help children, and to make problem solver children. Yeah.
Very good, very good. So, in a lot of computer science courses, or you know, computer science colleges, they start teaching about computers and programming with flowcharts. So, flowcharts, if you don't know, and I'm sure most of the people that are audience of this podcast know, but I just mention it again. Flowchart is a format that teaches you to picture and to visualize the way and the steps that are laid out for solving a problem. For example, in step one, you get input from the user. In step two, you add that, you multiply that input by something, and in step three, you print it out. This can be a very simple flowchart, and every step has a special format. For example, some shape, some geometrical shape, and it is used to draw it. And flowchart is a is an easy visual way to teach children become interested in programming, because it doesn't need any programming knowledge. They just need to know a couple of shapes as the steps of the way, and they draw them together. They start from the beginning, and finally, after doing some processing on it, what to do with it. In every step, they have branches. For example, if the number is above 10, they decide to do something. If it is not above 10, it's below 10, they decide to do another thing. If it is equal to 10, they decide to do another thing. And this is how flowchart works. Although I haven't used it for many years, but basically it's how flowcharts work. And did you love flowchart, Mahmoud?
I actually not in love with flowchart, but I use it automatically in my mind. I think algorithm and flowchart, after some practicing and after some trying, it's your mind find out that use it automatically in your mind. I I'm for myself, for me, I'm use algorithm and flowchart. Algorithm. I use algorithm in my mind automatically, and I don't think about it, and I don't design a flowchart or algorithm on a paper, but my mind do it, because my mind learn to use it for solve a problem automatically, and
Yeah.
it's a mind friendly, brain friendly, I think. And yeah,
That's
uh,
great.
yeah, it's just flowchart is just some shapes and a chart to visualize algorithm. The base of it is algorithm, but I think it's a little bit child friendly. Maybe child can like it, and I think in the future we can convert flowchart to programming code, because I think it's possible, and it's machine friendly maybe.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I'm glad that you mentioned it because there are actually some tools that do visual programming even right now. In some tools or some game engines, they do some visual scripting, and the way visual scripting works is basically they have some shapes and they connect them together. It's very similar to how flowcharts are created, and behind the scenes it just does all the code, creates all the code, all the C++ code for the game, while you do not directly edit them. Of course you can edit them, but uh, with a good knowledge of that visual scripting, which is not very hard, you will basically be able to create very good games. And that's what I think somehow realizes the visual programming and converting flowcharts to programming code. The next question is, are there any tools for algorithms and flowcharts? Uh, as far as I know, there are some even open source tools that are available over the internet for creating flowcharts, and they are easy to use. Basically, you have all the shapes in your disposal and the connectors, you draw them, and currently I don't remember any specific tool, but if you search for algorithm draw tool, or better as a better search term, flowchart drawing tools, I'm sure you will find good tools to download and use for and free of charge. Most of them are open source and very easy to get started with. And once you are done with the flowchart, you can export them as PNG or another favorite image format of yours, and then use it, print it, do whatever you like. So is there anything you want to add to this question?
No, honestly, I don't use these tools. But as I told you before, I use flowchart and algorithm in my mind automatically. I think, yeah, after some years, your mind learn to think in algorithm based and flowchart based problem solving. Yeah, and after that, you don't need to write it on the paper, but you use it in your mind. But I don't use any tools. But I think it's possible to create a structure or a part of code uh, with some tools. Yeah.
Right, great. Before we continue with our discussion on algorithms and flowcharts and math, of course, let me give you a small introduction of algorithm and how algorithm, the term, came about, how it was created, and what is the root of this word. Algorithm, if you search it over the internet and look it up in Wikipedia, for example, on Wikipedia, you will find that it comes from al-Khwarazm or al-Khwarazm, which was a Persian mathematician many years ago, maybe around 700. Yeah, year 700. I'm not very sure about that, about the year he wrote his books, his mathematical books. But the interesting fact about him was that he was probably the first known mathematician that used some step-by-step algorithm to solve a mathematical problem. And many years later, it became very popular among scientists and among especially computer scientists, to use his method for solving computer problems. Alright, Mahmoud, you mentioned that uh, after a while, if you uh, get going and use flowcharts, you get used to it and it becomes just a mental process. You don't need to do some special, use a special tool or even draw it on paper. It becomes a mental process, or in other words, it becomes uh, mental thinking, a way of mental thinking sorry, I it's very difficult to say, thinking algorithmically. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's good.
exactly.
Thinking algorithmically. How can one learn to think algorithmically to solve effectively computer science problems and mathematical problems that are supposed to be solved by using computers?
I think that it's you do it automatically. It's algorithm is a way to thinking, and after a while that you practice and use it, even write it on a paper for the first. Uh, After a while, your mind learn it, uh, and your mind learn to solve problem in this style. And I think very,
It becomes an automatic process, right?
yeah,
It becomes
becomes
an automatic
automatic
process and a
process,
natural
natural
process.
process. Yeah.
Yeah, and might be very easy compared with even papers and paper-based drawing and calculation. You might not even need a lot of that because your mind just is used to it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
And your mind do it perfectly.
Yeah, but personally, I don't have any recommendation for how to think algorithmically because it sounds nice. It sounds nice to think algorithmically because your mind is more badass and can challenge problems more effectively if you think algorithmically. But are there any ways, in your opinion, to boost that, to improve that? Personally, I don't think of any recommendation right now for that. How to improve your thinking algorithmically and how you can think algorithmically. For example, if you want to teach
Mm-hmm.
a child to think algorithmically,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, are there any ways, or they just have to practice on paper and automatically it becomes a habit of their mind?
Uh, Honestly, it's my way, and
And
I'm do it in this way. I'm. I remember I'm uh, write algorithm and flowchart on the paper for my first project for a while, and after a while, I found out that I use algorithm in my mind and I don't need to write it on a paper. But it's very good practice if you write it on a paper for your first project. And yeah, I learn it in this way. And uh,
yeah,
yeah, I
yeah. So it comes down to this, that it can be personal taste, a matter of personal taste and personal habit, but thinking algorithmically, let me emphasize this, that thinking algorithmically does not mean you should not write down something and you should not do designs on paper, because it helps a lot. It's very helpful, in my opinion. It's very helpful in solving, for example, large scale problems and presenting your work and presenting your ideas to others. What we are talking about here is that it's very good to teach your mind to think algorithmically in terms of visualizing the different steps and uh, at least summarizing the steps that are that are supposed to be laid out to solve a problem. All right, I think we're done with the discussion today. Are there anything you want to add, Mahmoud, to our discussion about algorithms and flowchart in math?
If I want to
Simplify, you mean?
yeah, simplified. Thank you. Simplified this discussion. I think if you wanna tell something to computer, you should use some words that we call it programming language, and you should write it in a structure and sequence that we call it algorithm, and it's a way that we solve a problem. It's tools to solving a problem.
Great, great. All right. As I promised you, there's another piece of news that I want to share with you, and after that, we are done and we will say goodbye. Uh, it was about Telegram. The news is about Telegram. It's a very funny fact that a lot of Telegram channels banned Iranians from chatting, and it's very funny. And the fact that I searched into it, why they ban Iranian users from chatting everywhere, even if they have verifier bots. They have some bots, some verifying mechanisms that they verify the user first to solve a problem, to solve a puzzle, and then if they successfully solve it, they allow them to join and chat. But for Iranians, they are banned completely from writing, and every group that you go and join, they are every group that Iranians go and join, they have read-only access. And the reason for that is there's a phenomenon in Iranian programming culture. They create some bots that are called tapchi, and these tapchi bots are responsible for sending just spam to everywhere they can, to every group that they can, to every group they can join. They join as user bots and they spam and spam and spam. So that's one reason that unfortunately they banned all Iranians from chatting everywhere and having write access. So I hope that they behave more in a fairer way to Iranians in terms of giving them access, because not all Iranians are using those types of bots that I told you about, tapchi bots. But unfortunately, the action of some of them has created this problem for all Iranian users. So that's it for ZomCast 3 this week. Thank you, Mahmoud, for helping me in this episode.
You're welcome.
So please join our channel, subscribe to our channel on YouTube,